Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Pakistan have all got together to come up with the Mecca Agreement. It's essentially based on the framework of NATO, so it's a joint defense pact that says that if any of the three nations are attacked, that they're all going to treat it as if they were attacked. Now, there haven't been a lot of specifics laid out there. It's intentionally ambiguous, but we're going to get into how that's going to affect NATO, considering Turkey is a NATO country, how that's going to affect the United States because the U.S. and Iran are going at it now, and Iran has been shooting missiles into Saudi Arabia, all of that kind of stuff. It has big implications for the United States, so we're going to talk about that. There was a big stall in the job market in July, and it's most likely because of school stuff, right? So summertime, everyone's out of school, teachers take vacation, there are seasonal staff that no longer have to go to work, but we're going to discuss that and the implications. Todd Blanche, who is Donald Trump's appointee for AG, he'd been held up in committee for a while, but he just cleared the hurdle to get a hearing or to get a vote from the whole Senate. So we're going to discuss that a little bit. And then the U.S. Appeals Court has once again stopped Donald Trump's ballroom construction. Now, I don't know exactly what's going to happen with this whole thing, but I don't think that they're going to be able to leave just the mess that's there now, right? They've already started some of the project, and I don't know how far they went, but we're going to get into that. And then if we have time, we're going to talk about a Thai teen that went on a rampage and killed 7 people. He killed his grandparents, then he killed 5 teachers at the school that he was in Thailand. So we'll talk about that. But right now, I want you to head on over to timcast.com and join Timcast. Timcast.com. You can get into our Discord, and you can go ahead and meet other people that are like-minded. There's a lot of people that have started relationships. There's a couple people who got married. There's some kids that have popped out. There's something like 20,000 or 30,000 people in the Timcast Discord. So get in there and meet like-minded people. The community is the most important thing about what we do here at Timcast. It's you guys that watch the show and get together with each other, start your own podcasts, and find like-minded people and discuss the important things that mean a lot to this country. So head on over to timcast.com and join the Discord. Then head on over to rumble.com. Become a member so you can watch the after show. We do the after show Monday through Thursday. We do usually about an hour. People from the Discord are able to call in, ask questions of our guests, ask questions of the people on the panel. So head on over to rumble.com and become a member. Also, smash the like button. Share the show with all of your friends. Share it with everyone you know. Joining us today to talk about all the things I mentioned earlier and a bunch more is Steve Loves Ammo.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
How you doing, Steve? Who are you and what do you do?
My pseudonym online is Steve Loves Ammo. I do social media full time. I was blessed to have grown an audience to be able to do that. I'm on TikTok, YouTube. Facebook, Instagram, and X is my largest platform. I'm a 2A absolutist, Purple Heart recipient. Today is National Purple Heart Day, United States Army veteran, and just try to make this country greater, one tweet at a time.
Awesome, man. Olivia's here.
Yeah, what's up, guys? Hey, it's Olivia, community manager here at Timcast.
2 questions before we go. What's your favorite ammo?
All of them.
And then what caused the Purple Heart?
It was a 107 millimeter rocket that landed about 3 feet away from me.
Bro.
Yeah.
Good to see you, man.
Yeah, I'm glad to be alive and be here.
The Purple Heart, also known as the Enemy Marksmanship Badge.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're going to jump right
Purple
into
Heart
it.
Day is what you're saying.
Oh, yeah. Shout out to Carter Banks.
Oh,
on
dude.
here.
Thank you for your service, by the way. And it's great having you here.
Holy
But yeah,
shit,
Phil,
bro.
let's
That
get
must have
into
been
it.
intense.
All right, so we're going to jump right into it. Saudi Arabia, from Reuters, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Pakistan pledge mutual defense as Middle East turmoil escalates. Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, and Turkey signed a joint defense agreement on Mecca in Mecca on Friday, wedding Sunni Muslim U.S. allies alarmed at a regional conflagration that has brought Iranian missiles fire into Gulf oil exporters. Iran and its allies have been firing on Saudi Arabia and other Gulf states and blockading their energy shipments since the U.S. and Israel attacked on February 28th in a major escalation after years of regional tumult. The Mecca Joint Defense Agreement is intended to strengthen collective deterrence against any act of aggression and stipulates that an armed attack against any of the three would be regarded as an attack on all, they said in a joint statement. However, the statement did not give specifics on the commitments each had and accepted it was not clear how far the agreement would bind them to any particular military action in each other's defense. Turkish Vice President Sevil Yılmaz said the agreement was not aimed at any specific country. A Turkish official added that it was purely defensive and did not abrogate any existing agreements the countries had with other states, referring to NATO. The three nations share concerns about the increasingly aggressive military stance of both Israel and the revolutionary Shiite Iran as their longtime U.S. ally struggles to contain regional upheaval that has caused a global energy crisis. Now, like I said earlier, this is going to bring up a lot of questions and a lot of issues. First of all, Pakistan is a nuclear armed country, right? Pakistan, and they have nuclear weapons because India has nuclear weapons. India and Pakistan have, just in the past, I think 18 months or something like that, had some fighting going on. There were a couple dog fights, I guess. Fighters that got into it with each other. They were shooting missiles at each other. Obviously, everyone knows that Saudi Arabia has been on the receiving end of missiles and drone strikes from Iran. And then Turkey is a NATO ally, right? So what does this mean for NATO and the United States? I can completely envision Iran sending more drones into Saudi infrastructure, right? Their oil production facilities, because they're looking to cause problems because of the U.S. and Israel striking Iran. Does that mean that Turkey is going to be involved with strikes on Iran? If Iran strikes Turkey, does that mean that all of NATO is then going to be dragged into a war against Iran? What does that mean for Pakistan if there are more escalations to the conflict between India, because the U.S. has got fairly good relations with India? Does that mean that Saudi Arabia and Turkey have to get into conflict with India? This really just makes a big mess that has a lot of implications for the United States.
Yeah, I mean, on its face, it looks like it's like, okay, they just made a pact. What's the big deal? But having like what is Clause 5 in NATO, which is an attack on one, is attack on all, joint defense, it's not good. It's not. I've always said that's a problem with NATO because that's a lot of countries, first of all. There's, like 20-something members of NATO?
31.
32. It keeps growing. So, but so that now that Turkey's involved in two of them, of wildly different regions, because obviously the United States and NATO, that was a direct reaction to the Warsaw Pact, but that era's come and gone. Now we're seeing this with a new conflict. And again, we're allies with India. That's a big problem for our relationship with India and our relationship with any allies of India as well. So having a mutual defense pact like that can be devastating. So people see this, they're like, yeah, it's the Middle East, who cares? It has a direct impact on us because if India attacks Turkey for being allied with Pakistan, we get pulled into that. And so does like most of Europe at that point because of Clause 5, which is part of the NATO, whatever, the charter, I guess is what it's called, the NATO charter. So
we have the U.S. is in multiple defensive pacts, for the record. I think it's in 5 different ones. There's one with Japan specifically. There's one with South Korea specifically.
Yep.
One with the Philippines specifically. These are all like World War II holdover defensive pacts.
Yep.
One with New Zealand and Australia called the ANZUS Treaty. And then one called the Rio Treaty, which is
Brazil?
Yeah, in the Americas. So the thing about defensive pacts, World War I got started because of a series of defensive pacts that triggered. So like Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan are in a defensive pact now. America's in a defensive pact with Turkey, NATO. So if Pakistan gets attacked by random country and then Turkey responds by attacking random country and then random country attacks Turkey in response to the response, the Americans then are bound to attack random country now because their ally as Turkey was attacked. That's what triggered World War I. You know, Austria-Hungary attacked. Like somehow you find the British declaring war on the Austrians because they attacked, you know, the French who had been attacked by the Germans and were responding. So that alone is concerning. But the other aspect of it is like it's a temperature check on where the minds of the Turks are, because the Turks are the bridge between the Russians and the Mediterranean now that they control Crimea. And if this is much better news than if the Turks were to have signed a defensive pact with the Russians, for instance. So at least it's like, I mean, I see that they want to buffer and protect themselves against the Israeli aggression and against the Iranian aggression right now. They want to kind of, you know, the Israelis, I think, have their eyes set on controlling the Middle East pretty seriously. And it's like, you know, I applaud the the independence of these people. Like they're not bowing, waiting for the Americas to take over and protect them. At least they're like kind of.
I mean, sure, but they're protected by the United States anyways. They know by Turkey being in that agreement, the U.S. is indirectly and directly involved. This is the problem with multipolar systems, like too many powers.
Yeah,
and then he cooks in the kitchen.
It's worth noting that Turkey has been kind of trying to play both sides for a while, right? So Turkey bought S-400 missiles from Moscow, right? That, in my opinion, shouldn't be like the NATO alliance shouldn't allow.
No, yeah, they should be.
Turkey to purchase. But Erdogan has been trying to strengthen Turkey's position by playing both sides. And while I don't think that there's a significant chance of Russia getting involved in basically any kind of conflict right now, they're so bogged down in Ukraine, and they've shown that their army is not prepared for a serious conflict with NATO, right? The thing that Russia has is nuclear weapons. How well they work or how capable they are, I don't know. But if there's one thing that has been shown over the past 4 years, is that big Russia can't even beat little Russia, never mind all of NATO, right? So I think the real implications are things like India and Pakistan, mostly Iran and Saudi Arabia, and to a lesser extent, Turkey and anyone else. But the problem is, if Turkey decides that they're going to attack someone, and in this case, it would most likely be Iran, and Iran strikes back, does that bring in Europe? Because Europe has been really hesitant about getting involved in Iran. Right? The U.S. has been saying, look, we want you to do this, we want you to do that. France has said they're going to do stuff that's never materialized. The British are like, hell no, we're not getting involved. So what does that mean? Germany obviously has no interest in getting involved in Iran, but an attack on Turkey could either trigger Article 5, or it could actually it could mean the dissolution of the whole NATO pact.
I'm thinking, because there weren't specifics given between the coalition, I think this might be like a kind of like, hey, back off Iran. Like we have these three countries that are
surround you
together, right? And maybe, hey, stop droning Saudi Arabia. We have two other countries that have our back, but this could deteriorate really fast if things go south.
And that could be Iran or India. It could be either one, because India could mess with Pakistan, which really wasn't the reason for this pact being made. But now that they've done that, and then Turkey gets involved, and then the U.S. has to get involved if they attack Turkey, it's a huge mess. And so I get what you were saying, Ian, about having these pacts can be a good thing because it's like independence of the people. But at the same time, there's so many of them at this point.
Well, I mean, it doesn't the existence of the pact indicate that it's not independence thereafter, right? If you make these kind of pacts, that's
your ability to make them, I guess. Kind of to Ian's point, he was saying it can be a good thing for these countries to do it without the U.S. having to back them. But then the problem is when you have Turkey involved. Turkey is the problem here. Turkey is the one thing that could actually screw this all up and create World War III, basically.
Well,
really scary.
It's in such a unique position being a part of NATO, now part of this other, what is it called, the Mecca Agreement? And being Constantinople, Istanbul is the waterway between the Russians and the Europe. So like they have like a triple three
threat.
different things they're trying to balance all at once. The thing about defensive pacts, though, is realistically, if the Iranians drone bombed Saudi Arabian American military bases, and then Turkey felt like they had to respond and attacked Iran, and then Iran was like, all right, then we're attacking Turkey, that shouldn't trigger NATO, because the Turks aggressed on Iran. We wash our hands of any response to your aggression towards the Iranians. We don't have to defend you if you attacked someone and they're attacking you back. You're not supposed to have to. I mean, as far as I know, maybe the treaty says otherwise, but usually that absolves you of your duties if your defensive partner were to aggress.
Has NATO responded to this?
This just happened today, I think. Let's see.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see what they.
Yeah, it was just updated August 7th, so I don't think there has been a response, and I wouldn't expect one, any kind of statement until at least Monday.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, look, whether or not Turkey whether or not an attack on Turkey, once Turkey was to become a belligerent, whether or not that attack would trigger NATO, it would put pressure on NATO. And the question is, can NATO, can NATO survive that? For the most part, NATO is, obviously the U.S. is the big dog in NATO, right? After the U.S., I think Germany has the biggest army now, and so I know the Germans aren't interested in getting involved at all. Germany has their own problems, dealing with their immigration and trying to stamp out the AfD and stuff, right? So I don't think that Germany's looking for this, but it in my estimation, the biggest issue that this would cause would be, does NATO survive this, or is this the catalyst that actually starts tearing NATO apart?
I got a fact check on troop size. U.S. is the number 1 in NATO. Number 2 is Turkey. U.S. has 1.3 million active personnel. 1.3 million. Turkey has 400,000 roughly. France, number 3 with 200,000, and then Germany's 4th, just under 200,000, and Poland also 200,000.
I mean, I'm very much of the we don't even need NATO anymore side of things. Like, it's just, to me, it's pretty useless. The U.S. doesn't need it. It needs the U.S. And so if the U.S. were to pull out of this, I know Trump had mentioned at some point possibly doing that. And I was like, yes, like, please do it. And he ended up not doing it. I was super bummed. But any kind of organization like this, everyone knows, is like my least favorite thing ever. So I don't want NATO to crumble because there's some attack on Turkey, and then I want it to not be for that reason, but I'm also not opposed to NATO falling apart. It's been how many years since the Cold War, and we still have NATO, which we don't need it.
Well, I think one of the other things that NATO has been at least part of is to try to prevent the proliferation of nuclear weapons, right? Without NATO and without the U.S., like you had mentioned before the show, there are U.S. nuclear missiles in Turkey, and that was to deter
Right, and that wouldn't be
Russia.
possible if we didn't have NATO, right?
You could do it.
Well, I mean,
there's
you
an
could do
non-proliferation.
individual ones, but the whole point of NATO was, at first it was to deter the Soviets and the Warsaw Pact, but having without the Warsaw Pact, you still have to worry about Russia.
Yeah.
Right? Russia's not an ally; they're not a friend to the West. They have their own desires, and obviously, reuniting Ukraine with Russia is number one. But there are other countries that used to be part of the Warsaw Pact that the Soviets would like to see, or the Russians would like to see back under Soviet influence. And a lot of those countries have become NATO members. So for Russia, the dissolution of NATO would be the best thing that they could imagine.
There's other treaties that exist. There's the Treaty of Non-Proliferation on Nuclear Weapons, which is a UN-backed treaty that's been active since, I think, 1970 or something. And that is, they check, or they have the IAEA, which is the International Atomic Energy Agency, and they can check for building up stockpiles and stuff like that. There are other ways to do it.
There are other ways to do it, but the fact that NATO exists and NATO countries know that Article 5 will be triggered, that's what they consider the real reassurance. You can have an agreement to not develop nuclear weapons, but that doesn't give you a reason not to, right? That doesn't give you the protection that NATO does. You can say, we don't want to develop nuclear weapons, or we agree not to, but it's just a piece of paper. At the very least, if you're in NATO, you can say, look, if you attack us, you're attacking all of NATO, and that will activate the United States.
Yeah, I think, again, that's important. Having those things is important. But at the same time, it's just, I think because the U.S. has gotten involved in so many Middle Eastern conflicts, I'm like fatigued, and I'm like, could just not do that. Like, that's great. We could just maybe not. But I understand why, for Europe specifically, it's very important for their security. But coming from a U.S. perspective, it needs us.
NATO needs us? Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like they need us. We don't need them.
No. I mean, the U.S. does the heavy lifting for NATO, for sure.
It probably, I don't think that the Chinese would ever invade Alaska, Canada, United States mainland. I don't think they would, even if we weren't in NATO, but it does offer severe protection against that too, because it would open up a Western front for the Chinese, or a Southwestern front if they were to tangle. If any country were to tangle, they'd have all of Europe attack them.
China doesn't border like European countries.
Not directly, but
and to be honest with you, you've got like the Himalayas are the best defense against basically anything.
Yeah, they've got a lot of Western buffers, but having like pressure would be very bad for them. And the Russians aren't necessarily like in a hurry to ally militarily with the Chinese. So it's not that NATO does no benefit, is what I'm saying. There's a lot of reasons why.
I just think it would harm us more
US.
than it hurts us if we were to get involved in the conflict.
Oh, if some
That's all I'm
cheap
saying.
European country got attacked by Russia
That's
and
what
the
I'm
U.S.
saying.
had to declare war on Russia, it would be the end of the world. Like we can't.
What do you mean that what cheap European country?
Belarus or some bullshit like.
I don't think
No offense, oh my Belarusian.
I don't think that Belarus is part of NATO.
Is it not yet?
I don't think so.
Belgium is, not Belarus. I think
Poland. I like the Poles.
Liechtenstein.
Yeah, if
You like
Liechtenstein got
Liechtenstein.
their ass licked by the Russians, they'd be. We'd have no choice but to intervene.
I think they have like 15 people in the military.
Do they?
Liechtenstein.
that might be high. That's like on a good day.
Probably. Yeah. Fact check me on that one.
No, there's a ton of them. So we're talking. Luxembourg is on there as well.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
Luxembourg
Luxembourg's
gets
like
attacked.
right in the middle of Europe. A lot of these countries that are small countries, they're in the middle of Europe.
I
They're
get why
not
they're
going to
there.
be attacked. They're kind of
they
a
catch a
part
stray.
of it, whether they like it or not, right?
What if they catch a stray? North Macedonia? Like, are you kidding me? They catch a stray, and now we're at war with
So-
Russia.
False flags too, you know.
Yeah,
You're like, hey,
Very
that Russian
true.
drone, I promise it was Russian, and now we're using that as a casus
that's
belli.
true.
So Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania are Baltic states that used to be part of the Soviet Union. Right? Those are the three, and then and those all share a border with Russia. So, and I think that I don't know for sure that Vladimir Putin intends to or would like to retake them, but I imagine. Because he said one of the worst things that's ever happened to the world, one of the greatest tragedies, I think, is the way that he articulated it, was the dissolution of the Soviet Union. Right? Like, there's a lot of people, because he was a KGB guy. He was a true believer in the Soviet Union, and the dissolution of it was, it was a big deal. So.
I want to hear that quote. Do you know what the context of that quote was, or where that came from?
He said that the dissolution of the Soviet Union was one of the greatest tragedies.
Was he saying the way it was dissolved, or just that it was?
He's
dissolution.
very pro-Soviet Union.
The way it was dissolved it was a little tragic in that it was a bunch of oligarchs that just chose to split it apart for business opportunities.
That's not
That was
the way it
Yeltsin.
was dissolved. That like the way it was dissolved is that, or that's that's what happened after it was dissolved. The oligarch stuff, right? All the people that had
Gorbachev
the formation
and
of the Ukraine.
yeah.
Gorbachev and Yeltsin became a little too friendly with the U.S., started to kind of phase out of all of the Stalinism, and then that's how it ultimately fell apart. It was economic collapse at the end of the day because socialism doesn't work, go figure. But that was, at the end of the day, getting a little too buddy-buddy with the West, getting too Western, getting away from those ideals is how it fell apart.
Yeah.
So
Kind of unceremonious. It just kind of stopped.
Putin's perspective on the dissolution of the Soviet Union kind of gives you a perspective on what he would want. If NATO
Yeah.
were to collapse, he would 100%
Yeah.
try to reclaim those lands.
Whether he can or not, I don't know. Whether he has I don't know if he has the time, because, like I said, like the Soviet military, the Russian military is not. It's just not the monster that we thought it was. The U.S. and NATO support of Ukraine has basically created a stalemate, and both sides are basically conscripting people to throw them into the meat grinder. And Russia just doesn't have the conventional forces to take back Ukraine. Obviously, I don't think they could take the other three. I don't think they could take Latvia, Estonia, or Lithuania at all, because with they're NATO countries. So even if the U.S. or if NATO dissolved, they would still seek out help from other European nations, and other European nations have a significant incentive to help prevent Russia from starting to gobble up other countries.
I got this the reference for the quote that you're talking about from Putin. In 2005, he said the collapse of the Soviet Union was the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the century, indicating because 25 million ethnic Russians or Russian-speaking people suddenly found themselves living outside of Russian borders. And so they were sort of something what happened with like the Germans after World War I. They split off the East and turned it into Poland. And so all the ethnic Germans started getting executed and just treated like second-class citizens. Could have been happening with the Russians. And then later in that same speech, Putin said, anyone that wants to restore the Soviet Union has no brains, because that old system did not work. But he wanted to re-empower Russia itself. So I don't think he's a Soviet. I don't think he wants communism, but I understand that he saw some horror take place.
Well, he's saying that those Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Ukraine, Belarus are Russian.
Yeah.
So he's saying that, like, even if he's saying I don't want to go back to that exact system, he still wants to restore it to the size it was.
He doesn't want to bring back the Politburo and stuff. He wants to be the dictator of those countries.
Yes,
'Cause that's what he is
wants to take
in
them back.
Russia. You know, he was in 2005. I think he stepped down, or I'm not sure when exactly, but in the aughts, he stepped down as president, and Medvedev became the president for a little while.
It was like his number 2 guy.
Yeah. So Medvedev became the president, and then Medvedev stepped down, and Putin went back into office as the president, and he's been the president ever since. So essentially, he's a dictator. They have elections,
Just
I
like North
think.
Korea.
Yeah. But he always wins.
Yeah.
And he's been there for the past 26 years at least or
I
so.
think he's been
most of
named
my life.
Russia's sexiest man every year, right?
Good for him. You know?
Really?
Sexy.
Being
Just
sexy
time doesn't
back,
touch him.
okay.
You know. But yeah, the point is, like, he would be the dictator of those countries. Maybe he wouldn't want it to be like the Soviet Union, but the reason he wouldn't want it to be like the Soviet Union is because he wants to have total control, not have the Politburo, or have the.
And the Soviet Union fell, so.
I'm a steel man Putin a little bit here, and you guys
Well,
push back
for
if you want.
context, I can give you his positions so you can
please,
steel
thank
man
you.
him. So he has held multiple positions. He was prime minister from 2000 to 2008. Before that, was he president before that? I don't know if he was. Yes, he was in office just before that, and then became prime minister, which is basically the same thing in these countries, like same difference. And then went back to being president after being prime minister. He was president, prime minister, president again. And he has literally held office since I was 1 year old,
Yeah,
Which was when?
1999.
Because you're not
19.
allowed
I was
to
198.
serve multiple consecutive terms as president. I think that's why they did that. They gave
Well,
the system.
Not anymore. I don't know if
First
that
he
matters
wasn't,
now.
but now, since 2008, so almost 20 years he's been the president.
So my philosophy of Steelman and what he's doing is he thinks that if he were to leave office, that some bureaucrat, liberal economic goon would come in and sell the country out to the machine state, and then that would be we'd all become technocratic, spy tech everywhere.
Are you saying that because you think that, or are you saying that because you've read some stuff?
No,
about that?
I get a feeling. It feels like he doesn't want to let go because he thinks it's going to get worse if he lets go. It's not like he's trying to like be the leader all the time everywhere, but it's like I don't see a better option yet. If you can show me one, I'll step down.
I don't think that that's an option. I don't think if you showed him a better option, he would consider it a better option. I think he would probably want to
Like
stay.
he's so calcified or
He can serve
ossified
until-
at this point that he's like nothing. He's looking for it. He's been looking for it for so long.
I
that
don't
now he
think
just
I
wants
don't think he's looking for a way
program to
out.
continue to look
No,
no
he
matter
I
how it
don't.
actually-
goes.
I don't think that he's looking
Probably
for a
wouldn't
way out.
feel safe if he left office.
Well, he made it so that he didn't have to leave until pretty much he's dead. So they had limits on their presidency. Their presidencies are 6-year terms. And he finished his 2 terms, but then in 2020, a law reset his 2 terms so he can serve 2 more 6-year terms, another 12 years. And by the way, they do their elections. That's not until 2036. And how old is Putin? Let's see
He's like
here.
pushing 70, I think.
Right. So by the time that 2036 comes around, like he's going to die in office. Absolutely. Not in like a someone's going to hurt him way.
Well-
It's just he's 73.
Yeah.
I think he'll live pretty old.
He's talked. Him and Xi Jinping were heard on a hot mic talking about living to 120,
I believe it.
150.
Well, they'll reset it again.
Oh, yeah.
in 2036,
You know?
and then he'll have 12 more years.
He's in no hurry to go anywhere at all. That's for sure.
No, he's
All
not.
I'm saying, if there's a better option in Russia, that person would wind up in a heavily tinted vehicle and whisked away.
I think
Absolutely.
that
Look what happened to the leader of the Wagner Group.
Yeah.
Like he tried to, there was a coup against Putin, and then Putin was like, "Oh no, all's forgiven." And then just a couple months later, his helicopter got shot down with a
So
SAM.
what a crazy coincidence.
Crazy
Crazy.
What was the guy whose car they shot him outside his car on a bridge? He was like,
I don't know. People,
Another crazy
look,
coincidence.
people that go after Putin or speak out too strongly against Putin end up dead.
It's so crazy.
Yeah,
how
it was-
that
They
works.
eat polonium sandwiches, or they fall out of buildings, or what have
They
you.
just
So-
trip and fall.
What?
Hate when that
The
happens.
building thing, that
Yeah.
happened.
There have been multiple people that have died under suspicious circumstances for criticizing Putin.
It's like
This
Kim
guy-
Jong Un's
strongly.
cousin or whatever that just somehow
His uncle.
got his uncle that
was
got
it?
killed in Singapore or whatever. Like that's
maybe
just
a cousin too, I don't know.
crazy.
Who's this?
Kim Jong Un's like
Oh, yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Like he just somehow found himself in the middle of a crime in an airport and
This guy I was thinking of is Boris Nemtsov. He was a vocal opponent of Putin for years, and in 2015 he got shot and killed while walking across a bridge near the Kremlin.
crazy.
Oops,
happened.
who knows what
Yeah,
happened?
so
Yeah,
I don't.
Fucking mad.
Stray bullet.
I legitimate. I don't think that, and I understand you're trying to steel man, or you were trying to steel man his position.
Yeah.
I don't think that he's actually looking for a way out.
I'm looking for like what is going on in his mind, because we all, from this perspective, he looks like a dictocrat, like a authoritarian, power monger. But in his brain, like he must think he's doing good. Like
I think
why?
he probably does.
He thinks of himself as an idol. He absolutely thinks he is like the best.
That's
thing that
kind of
happened to
what
Russia.
Stalin and Lenin both thought they were doing real socialist good work.
Yeah.
They actually thought it was going to work, which is the scariest thing.
Have you seen the photos of him riding a horse shirtless? That's what he thinks of himself. So,
Because there's like the process where you want to, no matter what, support the process. George Washington, I'll step down. I'm giving power up. You need to respect the process so that we maintain like a democratic republic. As soon as one guy refuses to let go, the whole process, you're spitting on the process. So Putin is spitting on the process. But then the other aspect of it is like, if you just play laissez-faire liberalism, the communists will take over and destroy you from within. So you have to kind of be brutal and bend and break the rules from time to time to maintain power and authority. So Putin's like, I see how he wavers between the two.
Well, well. First of all, I don't think that we can classify Russia as a democratic republic.
I think it's
They call it the Russian Federation. I think.
Federation of States,
But
or
it's,
of,
uh,
oblasts.
I don't know, but
Oblast regions.
but yeah. So I think that trying to articulate it in a way that's similar to the United States, I think is an error in classification. It's a different system, and because of that, like I don't know. Do they have a parliament in Russia?
I think they have something that resembles that. Hold on.
maybe
Double
just
check.
a placeholder.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, and if they do, it certainly doesn't have the ability to restrict their president.
Oh,
Putin.
absolutely. I mean, they're going to empower him because they're scared of him.
Yeah.
So
So-
semi-presidential republic. So obviously power of the president. They have prime minister. They have a cabinet. They have a federal assembly. Oh, that's right. I studied this in college. Totally forgot all about
Putin
it.
kind of has like seniority as far as having been
has
around the longest and worked under all the other people that have been there.
And he was KGB. So they have a Duma, which is basically like our house. And then they have a Federation Council, which is the upper house, which is 2 people from each region, so like our Senate. So they call that the Federal Assembly. So
Okay.
similar to ours, but different.
Similar in
like
the way that
NATO.
it's organized, but the president has
I mean,
you
at the
know
end of the day, it's
has the ability to off his political opponents.
literally, yeah.
So
Structurally similar, in
Yeah.
practice, not so much.
not so much. Not so much. So yeah, I guess back to the initial topic. What is the Mecca agreement mean for NATO? And it really is just kind of a mess. Because obviously the issues with Turkey, the issues that are currently going on with Iran, it could be a complete and total just pile of spaghetti.
I think it really indicates that like the actual threat is not the Russians, but the Israelis and the Iranians. That it's not either one of them. It's the conflict that's brewing as a result of that.
The Middle East is a problem. That it's always been a conflict zone. So having any pacts like that, it's just going to cause problems because there will never be peace in the Middle East. No matter what anyone says, there will never be peace there in some form or fashion.
Because it's too hot.
That's what people
It
like
is
to
hot
say.
there.
I
Very
mean,
hot.
Yeah,
You been there?
It is
But it goes back to biblical times.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. All right, let's jump to this story here. The U.S. job market stalled in July as employers cut 23,000 jobs, delivering political setback to Trump. Now, this is from the AP. Washington, the U.S. job market stalled unexpectedly last month, delivering a political blow to President Donald Trump 3 months ahead of midterm elections and complicating decisions making for the inflation fighters at the U.S. Federal Reserve. Employers cut 23,000 jobs in July, and the Labor Department revisions slashed 103 jobs from May and June payroll. The unemployment rate fell, but for the wrong reasons. Thousands of people dropped out of the labor market, so fewer people were competing for work. The job numbers from the Labor Department Friday marked a sharp setback for the American labor market and for Trump less than 3 months before his Republican Party seeks to keep full control of Congress in the midterm election. Forecasters had expected job creation to approach 100,000 last month. Local public schools cut 50,000 jobs in July. Restaurants and bars, 26,000. Retailers, 19,000. Now, the 50,000 jobs in local public schools matters because this happens every year, right? In the summertime, public schools cut jobs because obviously kids go home, so they don't need to have as many people on staff. The 4.1 unemployment rate was the lowest since June 2025. Again, June of last year, but it only fell because 264,000 people dropped out of the labor market last month. The share of those working or looking for work fell to 61% of the lowest since February 2021. Jeez. We can't really put lipstick on a pig here, said Daniel Zhao, chief economist at the job website Glassdoor. This is not a great report for July. And I did wonder, like, how much of the decrease in employment has been because of deportations, right? So TPS ended, temporary protected status just recently ended, and so they're able to deport those people. But there have been deportations on the order of 4,000 people a day since about January. How much of the jobs being cut or lack of employment is because of deportations?
If someone had been here off the books illegally and could they have been on unemployment?
No, they couldn't be on unemployment, but they would go to the total jobs number. They would be considered under people working and stuff.
If it was like, because you're saying these people, like how many, 60% of the workforce is now looking for work, before is like 40% less people are actually looking for jobs. I don't know. I don't think that would track that would have anything to do with illegal immigration because they weren't on the books anyway.
Well, but that doesn't mean that they're not on the books, but that doesn't mean that the employers aren't counting them as employees, right?
It's like they leave out a lot of numbers for optics, right?
Yeah.
Like during the Autopin presidency, we saw how many government jobs were added, and they counted them as regular workforce jobs, and we're like, so, but that's released later. So without knowing like the details behind it, it's kind of hard to decipher for me.
Yeah.
Does it go up and down frequently, like a sine wave? The job market, is it constantly the unemployment numbers?
It does tend to fluctuate a little bit, but you'll get a trend. Like, so if the economy is shrinking, right? So a quarter of lower GDP, two of those in a row historically has been a recession, right? But they changed the rules during the Biden administration.
Of course, they moved the goalposts.
Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure exactly how much it fluctuates, but like I said earlier, the numbers from what is it, public schools, 50,000 jobs in July, right? That's because of
Summer break.
Schools shrinking for the summertime. And the previous, the 4.1 unemployment rate was the lowest since June 2025. There's a significant shrink in the summertime because schools stop, having classes.
Yeah, I used to work at a school, and we would have summer school. So when I was working in middle school, it would cut by, so we had 3 wings in the school for the different grades, and it would cut to like half of a single wing, which was not a lot. And it was maybe 45 to 50 students max, and this is like a big school. So we probably had, I'd say 40, maybe 45, and I mean maybe 4 teachers and then support staff, which is what I was doing. So it does cut quite a bit, and they're considered not working right now, even if they're getting paid, depending on how they take their pay. So it is going to show that. But I'm wondering what the other reasons could be for people not being in the job market. Like, I know the job market's not great right now. It's hard to get
restaurants and bars and retailers had a total of, or restaurants and bars of 26,000, retailers were 19,000. So that's, significant. It's nothing to sneeze at. It's not as many as public schools, but when you have shrinkage in restaurants and bars and retailers, that kind of indicates that the economy is slowing a little bit, that people aren't going out and spending as much money. And this kind of ties into the burrito gate that's been going on X, right? People are complaining because burritos shouldn't cost this much money, and maybe they have a good argument, but the response has been terrible. When you have job numbers that are less than you had hoped for, like they were talking about, I think they said they were hoping for jobs to be up by, what is it? Let me see.
100,000, I believe.
Yeah, I think they said they were hoping that jobs were going to be up by 100,000, and then they're down by, 75 or not 80,000 or whatever. That's a significant difference. And you've got people that are young, specifically young people, excuse me, saying, look, it's tough out here. It's hard for us to find a job. We can't get work that pays us enough. The people that do have jobs, like, we can't make ends meet. We don't make enough money. And then the response from, boomers, from older people is like, oh, well, just pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Yeah.
And I've made this point a couple times, like, you can't talk to young people that are not go-getters as if they were go-getters, because the go-getters are already out there going and getting it. Right? Like, if you're a motivated person and you're like, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make something out of nothing, you're already doing it. So the pull yourself up by the bootstraps is a terrible, terrible line. And I've been focusing lately a little bit on how important messaging is, right? The Democrats have got great messaging because they're telling people, we're going to take care of you. And you're telling people that don't have anything. They're like, you can't say, oh, well, you have to worry about your property. Young people are using Klarna for burritos, or Klarna for burritos, right?
Yeah.
They're payment plans for their fast foods, right? That is a terrible way to live your life. And when someone says, we're going to help you fix that, we're going to make sure that you have enough money to pay your bills.
You don't have to work harder.
Yeah, and you don't have to work any harder. You don't have to go out there and get it. We're going to bring it right to you. That's going to convince people. It's not a great way to actually have your country organized at all. It's unsustainable, specifically when you've got so much money going to older people through Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, right? That it's going to be insolvent in 6 years, 2032 or 33 is when Social Security ends. And all that's going to be is they're going to cut everyone's benefits, which means people that are living on Social Security that are just getting by on their Social Security, they're going to have 25% of their benefits cut. And
that opens the door.
It does.
On the other side, where we'll cover that cost that you're missing.
And
so, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go, please.
No, I'm just saying, like, the GOP, like, they're still in that old school mindset where, I walk to school uphill in the snow
twice a day.
Oh, you're not making enough money, get a second job, get a third job. These people are tired. This is being on social media versus real life is way different. And I think that's what needs to be addressed. Like, you see some accounts on X or whatever, just do more. But they're like, people are tired and people want to make an adequate wage and just live their life.
And look, you can be correct and say, look, you just got to work harder. There's opportunities out there. Go out and find them. That can be true, but that doesn't make it a good message. And it doesn't mean that people are going to go out and vote for you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Like Crenshaw's tweet. We talked about this yesterday in Pop Culture Crisis. Horrible post, by the way. Like I get why he lost for multiple reasons. But as someone who's elder Gen Z, I guess, I see this a lot in my generation. I see a lot of people saying that they feel like helpless and they're doing Klarna on DoorDash because they don't think they'll ever buy a house. They don't see it ever happening. So why should they even try is what they're kind of thinking to themselves now. We need to actually encourage young people to go out and do things. The Democrats win because they tell them you can get more by doing less. We need to show people that you get more by doing more, and by doing less, you're going to get less. But they're not seeing that correlation because they're being told differently.
Yeah, I mean, how do you motivate people to do more, when they feel like, the whole world is stacked against them? John Doyle had a post the other day, and he was talking about, young people have the right to expect the same standard of living as their parents had. And I'm not sure that they have that right, but it's completely reasonable.
Sure.
It's completely reasonable to think that. Like, I don't think you can say, well, I have a right to this, but it's completely understandable why someone would say, look, man, we live in the age of AI and cell phones that can do everything for me, and everything gets brought right to my house whenever I buy it, and et cetera. Mm-hmm. Why is my life worse than my parents? Why don't I have the ability to get a house? And sure, we can jump in and say, well, look, it's because the Federal Reserve printed up a bunch of money, and it's because the boomers are holding on to their houses and not selling them. And that's why, all the things that you really want you don't have the ability, you don't have access to. But it doesn't change the fact that they don't feel good about it, and how people vote by how they feel.
I mean, yeah, there's 3 big reasons I can see it. And the first one is the biggest one, and that's a lack of accountability for people, not taking accountability for their money, their actions, the jobs they're getting, not applying themselves to these things. The second one is that most of the teachers in schools today are basically communists, and they're teaching them these things from a young age. It gets instilled in them. It's a lot harder to change someone's mind when they're 25 than when they're 5. So when you teach those things, and then that goes to the third thing, which is parenting, having strong parents in the household. Like, every kid that is raised by somebody here is going to be fine. I'm not worried about anyone's kids here. I'm talking generally speaking. Weaker parents with weaker messaging, and then they go to school and hear the same thing, and they're treating the schools like a second parent or like a daycare. Then they go on into the world to be like, why do I need to take accountability? My life just sucks because that's what I've always been told.
See, but I don't disagree with any of the substance of what you're saying. But how do you articulate that in a way that doesn't sound like pull yourself up
or offensive?
Yeah,
because it's feelings based for so
exactly.
many people.
So, like, my concern
Yeah.
is if you want people to vote for things that are going to be good for the country, how do you tell them in a way that also doesn't sound like, well, it's your responsibility?
Yeah,
because we've got to hold, and I see this with libertarians, and it's one of the reasons why I find significant problems with libertarians nowadays. Everybody talks about freedom and liberty, and nobody talks about the corresponding responsibility. Mm-hmm. And it's because it's not really particularly attractive, right?
Sure.
You can get people to sign up and hang out with you, and you're like, man, you should be free to do whatever you want, blah, 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 blah. And whether you're, in the gun industry, in the gun industry and in the gun world, it's a little bit different, because one of the things that we talk about a lot is, look, you have a responsibility. Like, you're responsible for every bullet that comes out of your gun, right? If you ever have to use a firearm in a self-defense situation, don't think that getting the bad guy is the only thing, that, stopping the threat is the only thing. Because if you smoke someone behind him, that's still second-degree murder, and you're going to catch a charge. You're responsible for all that stuff. And so the Second Amendment community, the libertarians or whatever in the Second Amendment community, they're pretty good about it. But the other parts of the Libertarian Party, the people that are less focused on like 2A issues, like talking about, well, you're responsible for these things. You're responsible for your liberty. If you're free to do things, you have corresponding responsibility that goes along with it. That is not particularly attractive, but you don't hear anybody in the Libertarian Party talking about it.
Right. I think the biggest thing is a lot of Gen Z doesn't feel heard. They don't feel like people actually understand them, because so many boomers are like, oh, pull yourself up from your boots. First of all, stop going to boomers for your advice. Like, go, maybe Gen X and millennials are better right now. I get we don't always have all of it together, but the boomers clearly aren't doing us any good right now. I'm going to exclude my parents from that one because they're lovely. But it's mostly, they need to hear that you understand what they're going through. Look, I see what you're going through. When I was 20-something, I really thought I was never going to get a house. I thought all these things were going to be like the world was ending for me as well. Here's the steps I took to get there, and here's why voting that way can help with those steps to get you there. You need to give them that, just do it and it'll all work itself out. That doesn't help anybody. You're like, well, that doesn't help me right now. You have to give them a clear end goal. So you want to buy a house and you feel like it's helpless right now. Well, talk to somebody who did just buy a house. Look at the steps they took. I'm guaranteeing they probably align more with right-wing policies. Yeah. And telling them, like, look, I never thought I'd own a house. I don't own a house right now, but you can say, I never thought this would happen to me. Here's everything I did to get there. Here are the policies that help make that work. And that's why you should be voting for our side. So you need to hear them first. First thing is acknowledging how they're feeling, and that it's totally valid to feel helpless sometimes in your 20s. But if you're not at least meeting them right there, you're never going to get past that. You have to get to that very first barrier, then you can have a conversation. But if you don't hear them, that's it.
It's good. This is why I do appreciate the boomers and the silent generation, if you had an opportunity to hang with them. Because when I ask like my dad, or if my dad's giving me advice, when I was 20, I was serving on a destroyer in the South Pacific, because the Viet Cong were, the Russians were trying to take over. So he was like, he wasn't shooting and killing people. He was in the Navy and was able to avoid direct combat. But that a lot of our money and our wealth was generated by foreign conquest and winning wars in the 20th century. And when that faded away after the Soviet Union fell, fiat. We were like, we need to maintain the standard of living so people can keep buying houses. Let's print it. And now that blew up. So like my grandma, when she was 12, her parents begged her to help. Somehow she got a full-time job working
Same
at
with mine.
a newspaper stand in 1930 when she was 12 because the Great Depression destroyed everybody. So like she worked full-time as a 12-year-old. Like that was her life. Do your 12-year-olds work? Or do they have full-time jobs?
Laws against that now,
do they pull money in
there's
for the
laws
household? Because like that's what it used to be like for thousands and thousands of years. Everybody contributed everything they could so you could survive. Now we have this luxury that people have become accustomed to where they think they deserve a house. You had to build your own house back in the day.
You can't just tell them that.
Another thing it's worth noting is like the number of people in Gen Z that own a home isn't as small as some people think, right? Like 25% of Gen Z, which is Gen Zers that are 25 to 29 own a home.
It's pretty good.
And it's ages 22 to 24 is between 10 and 15%. So it's actually not impossible for young people. Right?
I'd be curious to know, like, if they had any help from their parents buying the home, though.
Well, I mean, look, it's possible, but I mean, if you're talking about, 30 to 40% of Gen Z, I don't imagine that 30 to 40% of Gen Z had a lot of help from their parents. That's basically reflects kind of, anyone above 50% 50% of society, right? Like if their parents were like above 50% above median income, and that doesn't mean that they have a lot of money. That just means that they're not, the lower half.
Isn't that the same percentage of Gen Z that lives at home as well with their parents? No, I'm being
It's a
serious.
way to save money to buy a house.
It
Well, I
is,
mean,
but
it
it's
could be.
also college debt. That's also another part. A huge part of this is college debt. Like taking out loans when you're 18 years old for a degree you're probably not going to use is insane. I don't know if you guys were all pressured to go to college.
Well, it's
I was.
interesting because, like, I think at least my parents they didn't see it coming like this. They thought, that it was going to be just like their generation until I was, like, trying to figure out what I was going to do. And then, like, nothing my parents were saying was helping. He's like, well, actually, I haven't applied for a job in 25 years, so maybe don't listen to what I'm saying. And I was like, okay, I'll figure it out then.
I mean, that was kind of like my dad was he owned a business, so he was worked in the trades and worked with his hands all his life. So there was no pressure for me to go into college. My his daughter, my sister wanted to go into college, and she got a degree and she doesn't really use her degree. She I think she got a degree in marketing, and she's been a bank manager for the past.
That's a better
like,
degree
30
than a lot of kids get.
At one
well,
point,
yeah,
it
I
meant
mean-
a lot.
What?
It meant a lot at one point.
Yeah,
I think
it did.
For the previous generation.
It did, but the point that I'm making is that like the degree that she got wasn't in the field that she ended up in.
Sure.
And she went and, like I said, she got a marketing degree, and she's worked at a bank, and she's been a bank manager for something like 30 years or whatever. And she didn't go into finance when she was in college, but she got out of college, had a degree, and got a job. And, she started as a teller and worked her way up, and now she manages a branch.
That's great. That's a thing in trade schools. That's a huge thing. My dad, they're currently selling the company, but my dad's whole career was owning a construction business for commercial glass. He races on that. So what your point is, kids living at home, I think so many of them live at home because they see this big mountain of, I don't know, I'm just going to average it out to maybe 30 to 60 grand in debt before you can even think about buying a house that's $300,000. That's for them. And that's because they feel like, and they're not even using their degrees most of the time. That's the problem too, is I know multiple people I went to college with, they're doing jobs that have nothing, they could have gotten them in high school.
The only people that I know that got a college degree and are using it are people that went to music school, musicians.
Yeah, theater. That's me right now. I mean, I trained on a microphone in college. I did.
Or doctors, lawyers.
I'm talking about my friends, people that I know, and I'm not talking about theater because I don't know anybody in theater.
Yeah,
and
right.
I don't know doctors either.
In art school.
I'm relaying a personal anecdote, guys. Don't tell me I'm freaking wrong. But the point that I'm making is like most of the people that I know that went to college, like out of all the people that I know that went to college, only the guys that went to like Berkeley or went to state schools for music got a BA. Our old guitar player Ollie got a BA in music theory, and he was in All That Remains for 20 years. Adam Duckowitz, the guitar player and producer from Killswitch Engage, he went to Berkeley. Joel went to Berkeley. The other guitar player, Joel, went to Berkeley.
They're also ambitious people, right?
Yeah,
so these are people that not only got the degree but wanted the career so badly that they went out and got it after the degree.
Yeah, but the idea of going to school for something in particular and then actually going into that field, that doesn't happen a whole lot anymore.
It's rare.
You know what I mean? It's fairly rare.
It's not the school that makes you want or go into the field. Like I had my eyes set on the field since I was 14. College was just a part of the stepping stone to get better at doing it. And so it was worth every 20 grand that I walked away with in debt of it, or whatever it was, 40 grand or
I have
whatever.
none, but I'm really, my dad was very good at investing. I got very blessed with that. And so I have a master's degree, but no student debt. How we manage that, I'm not even going to ask him. I'm good. I'll trust it.
My sister, when she was in college, she worked, and she graduated college. Like, she paid for it. She worked part-time. I don't remember if it was part-time or, she had to work part-time. And she went to UMass, at Amherst. So it wasn't some like cheap school.
No.
It was expensive, and she paid it off, and she didn't take out a lot of debt to do it. She might have had some loans. I'm not 100% sure, but she worked while she was in college and paid it off. There's a lot of kids that go to college nowadays and they don't work at all.
Worked in college,
they live off the loan because you can get such huge loans. And one of the problems you mentioned, excuse me, you mentioned earlier, Olivia, is the fact that the government guarantees these loans, or government is involved in it, and anything the government gets involved in, the prices go up. Part of the reason why homes are so expensive is because the government's involved in homes and home loans and stuff. Part of the reason why schooling is so expensive is because you've got government loans. You can get a government loan, and so the schools raise the prices because they know that an 18-year-old can get a loan for $100 grand to pay for school or whatever, and you get locked into this loan for however long, and then people that get out of school, they're paying minimum payments, and minimum payments aren't even covering the increase in interest, and that's why you get people that are, they're 10 years out of school, and they owe more money than when they, got out of school.
Yeah, I know two people who met at a private college, got married. Both of them lived locally, but still lived on campus, which cost more money to do that. Yeah. They could have commuted. They didn't. Now they are married. They live together. They have collectively $120,000 in student loans. Neither of them are using the degrees that they got. I mean, that's insane. That is insane to do that. And I had another point while you were talking, and I was like, oh, that's good. But now I can't remember what it was. But that level of debt, working in college. You should work in college. It builds you to then go into the job market prepared. It builds your resume. I worked 2-3 different jobs in college. I paid for all my own groceries and eventually my own apartment. That was the deal. They're like, we'll pay for your tuition, but you got to pay for everything else you want to do. You got to pay for your car. You got to pay for all this stuff. And I did, and that taught me that accountability and responsibility to then pay bills and all that and handling finances.
Steve, did you go to college?
Yes, I did. I actually have 2 degrees.
Yeah.
One, I went to trade school and I became an electrician. And then, I did that for a while.
It's a gold mine nowadays.
I wish I would continue to do that, but so I didn't I was a marine electrician, so I worked on crew boats and barges and kind of oil field type stuff. And then I joined the Army in 2006, and then I used my GI Bill to get a bachelor's in occupational health and safety after, and I actually used both. So I must be an anomaly with that. But I think earlier, we were talking about how we could change almost the mindset of this country. What has been missing in this country since 2001, in your opinion?
The Twin Towers?
Yeah.
I was gonna ask, but okay, what came after that?
Fantastic.
The American
everything I've heard all day, actually.
The Twin Towers.
That's gonna stay with me for a
Touché, sir. But anyways, the American spirit. Remember, right after 9/11, everyone's pro-America.
Yeah.
There was we were all united on one front. And just the American dream has been missing, and I'm still laughing at it. But the American dream, we need to re-emphasize that messaging. Have people that have actually worked for what they, Elon Musk. I mean, he's South African, came to this country, and now it was, well, former trillionaire. But, you know, if you put your mind to something, you can accomplish it. You know, there are going to be hiccups along the way. There's going to be downfalls all the time. You're going to fail more than you succeed, but you have to keep pushing. I think that's kind of the mindset we're missing.
One of the things that is important, I think, is that, like you're saying about like keep trying and stuff. Like people quit too early, and like one of the things that, like, one of the reasons why All That Remains is a successful band is because I just never stopped. Right. I didn't have the brain, you know, I wasn't smart enough to get a real job or whatever. So I just kept doing it, you know, and you learn what you're doing. And another thing I think that does matter is having the humility to be like, okay, whatever I'm doing now isn't quite working out. Who's done what I want to do, and can I pick their brain? Like we did that. We definitely did that. We put out a record in 2002, and it wasn't the record that I wanted to put out. And I was like, well, how do I get a record? How do we make a record that sounds like I wanted, you know, like I want it to sound? And fortunately I knew Adam from Killswitch, and I was like, hey, produce our record. And then we went to him to do the next record, and that's when we started getting some traction because, you know, he's like, this is what you should do, and you should do this and change that. And we didn't go in there saying we know what's up. We're like, help us make a good record. You know, you're the guy that went to Berkeley. You're the guy that, you know, put out the records that sound like we want our record to sound like. So like, how do we do this? And, you know, we did whatever he said. And then when we went back to him for the next record, this record called The Fall of Ideals, like that record we put together ourselves with very little input. When we brought it to him, he was like, yeah, all this stuff sounds squared away. I wouldn't really change this or whatever. And after that, it was like, okay, you're off to the races. We kind of figured out the secret sauce to make All That Remains sound like All That Remains. So it's really a matter of not quitting, continue pushing. And it's hard because, you know, you got bills to pay, and a lot of people end up with like families. Well, fewer people end up with families nowadays, but you know, it's hard to continue when you keep running into walls, or you keep getting turned down, or you keep, you know, miss a lot of opportunities or whatever. But the people that end up successful are the people that don't quit.
I think that's instant gratification culture. People don't want to put time and effort into it. They're like, if I don't get the likes on this video, that's not my bag, I guess. I'll try something else. And it's like, it takes time and effort to do this stuff. It's not, I didn't start a quote unquote career until 27. So, or 26, I guess, technically.
The record that put us on the map, The Fall of Ideals, I was 31 when that came out. And that's an old guy, already an old guy in the music industry. You know, like we were on tour with some bands that had kids that were, you know, 17, 18, 19 years old. They had to ask their parents if they could go on tour. That's a true story.
And you got to keep trying. You can't just rely on instant gratification, because that will ruin you. That will ruin your ambition. You need to bring back that level of ambition, and I don't want to say pull yourself up, but like work for what you're getting.
Yeah.
But like genuinely do it.
I did 24 years of unpaid work before I started getting paid for what I loved to do. 24 years. Since I was 14 to the age of 38, I started getting paid in the entertainment industry, like securely at age 38. And it was worth every minute. I mean, I worked so many shitty jobs as a waiter, 12 years of just hating my job. Thinking about how miserable I was while I was standing there waiting for it to be over, like dreaming about a day where I could do what I liked and actually make money doing it. And then it happens. Like, it happens. But the problem with the American dream, like you're saying, is like the militarization, and just like, I felt like the dream was alive in the 90s. I was so excited to be an actor. Like, I'm going to work harder and make more as a result. And then like it felt like everything fell down in 2001 when the buildings came crashing, and then it was like the mask came off, and they were like, now we're just going to try and take over the world. The American dream is conquer the world. And I'm like, what is the point of this? Like,
good point.
So I've been really disenfranchised with the American way of life for about 25 years because of that. Like, what is the American dream? Is it to conquer the Middle East? Is it to have the most nuclear weapons? Is it to beat the most people up that said the bad word? Like, what's the point? Is it to sustain and have a nice, calm little farm? Because then the enemy comes from without. So is the job to have is the American dream to have the strongest borders? Like, what's the American dream?
Depends which aspect you're talking about.
Well,
I don't think there's any one. It's just.
Well, so I think that there was a general idea of what the American dream was, right? The idea that you can go to work, do something that maybe something you don't love, but something that you can tolerate. And you can come home and you can have a home and a family that's yours, right? The the idea of ownership is something that was a major component of the American dream for a long time. And that's part of the reason why I think people that rent and don't own anything kind of feel like they're they're alienated, or they don't have access to the American dream because they don't have that aspiration to own something, right? The whole idea, like, oh, I'm the king of my castle, right? My house. Maybe it's not the biggest one in the world,
It's mine.
but it's mine,
Right.
and I get to make the decisions, and my family is here, and this is what the important stuff is to me, right? Like that kind of sense of ownership and that kind of sense of I've made my life, and I've made it out of working hard at whatever your job is, whether it be a white collar job or a blue collar job. The idea that you can go to work and then you have your little, quote unquote, your little slice of heaven, your home that's yours, that no one can take away from you, where you can actually make the decisions. That's kind of the American dream,
And
where you
legacy.
can. What?
With a family, building a
Yeah,
legacy, like
exactly.
having that be handed down, working so hard that you can hand that stuff down is so important. We see smaller and smaller families. To me, the American dream is like people that, if you're talking about people that come here for the American dream, if that's what you want to look at it as, people that come here to buy a house, have a family, work hard, and leave their children what they worked for.
Yeah.
That's the American
The
dream.
term succeed, actually, like the term succession. Like if a king succeeds to his child, that's the general term of, did you succeed in life? Well, we're about to find out, because is stuff being passed down to your child? That's succession. That is success, is that you're able to pass something on to the next generation.
So to your point, the idea that the American dream was somehow tainted by foreign wars, that doesn't resonate with me, because I think that the American dream was always about here in the United States and the individual's ability to do things in the United States, do things for themselves. The people that come here that are looking, quote unquote, looking for the American dream, they're coming here hoping that they can start something. And this is a kind of a way that I phrased it a lot. People that have an agency attitude, that they can go somewhere in the United States and make something happen for themselves, as opposed to people that have a lack of agency in their attitude, who think that the world happens to them. And I think a big part of the reason why the United States has been successful over the course of our 250-year history is because people were attracted to the idea of coming here and being able to make something happen for themselves. And that possibility, drew people that were looking to come here and happen to America, right? Like when Arnold Schwarzenegger came over to the United States, right? He was determined to happen to America. Like America wasn't going to happen to him. He was going to happen to America. And millions of people that have come to the United States throughout our history have come here with the same goals and the same aspirations. I'm going to happen to America. I'm going to go there and I'm going to do something, and I'm going to make something happen. And that is a big part, in my opinion, of the American dream. It's the attitude that you're able to happen to the world, as opposed to the world happens to you.
I think to his point, I think the United States, like, imagine you're just looking at a map of the U.S., right? There's a bunch of clouds on top of it. The American dream is still underneath there, but you have to start peeling away. All right, why are we printing money? Why are we over $40 trillion in debt? Take that out. Take out the millions of illegals that are taking jobs, houses, get them out. And you just have all these compounding things that are on top.
Yeah.
And once you start solving some of these problems, it opens up the door again to the American dream, because there are invaders in our country that are taking the American dream away from us.
Yeah.
And I think land ownership is a big part of it. Like back in the last couple hundred years, there was a lot of open land to take for colonists and for settlers, like going west. That age has sort of passed us by. And within the United States, there's not a lot of land to go get now. It's kind of owned by corporations sometimes.
Go to Alaska, you can get some land.
What's Alaska?
You can go to Alaska. There's a lot of land.
Go to Gaza, I hear too. There's land for sale or to be taken by settlers.
Gaza's not
over
in the
there,
United
too.
States.
Yeah, that's more of an Israeli thing. But there's land to be colonized, I hear, on Earth. But like if a foreign corporation, especially, owns a piece of land in the United States, like, is the American dreamer thinking like, yo, manifest destiny, this is American land. Why does a quasi BlackRock foreign corporation claim ownership over?
We talked about BlackRock the other day.
Like, I think BlackRock's not an American corp. I'm not sure. It's a multinational corp. It's not necessarily adherent to American law and American restriction rules everywhere it goes. So any kind of foreign a Chinese businessman owning American farmland, that seems like that's another cloud that you would need to peel away to be like, look, the American dream is owning my own property. And if the Chinese own all the land around me, what am I supposed to do? What is this dream? What's going to happen in this dream if the foreigners keep trying
Chinese dream.
buy my land through legal right when the reality is I'm de facto on top of it? Because there's like du jour reality where it's like by law, this is what the reality is. And then there's de facto reality, which is like what's really happening, which is these people are here living on this land. Maybe they're not on paper the owners, but they're basically the owners because they're the protectors of the territory. So I don't know, man. I mean, back in the day it was land seizure. We would just take it from the natives.
So out of 43 million acres of U.S. agricultural land, that's foreign owned, right? That's about 3.1% of all U.S. agricultural land. Total land area is 2.3 billion acres. So foreign-owned land is roughly 1.9% of all land. I understand what you're saying, but it's actually not a problem.
Well, it's crazy that any of the land is owned by foreigners.
I mean, fair. I mean, well, I don't know. It depends. Should a foreign company be able to set up shop here in the U.S.?
I mean, I'm an American nationalist and almost an isolationist, so I'm going to say no.
You don't think a foreign company, so like Mitsubishi, shouldn't be allowed to? Because that's what I'm talking about. Like,
Okay,
or Samsung.
Well, but it's
Samsung
an American company, though, right?
Well, I mean, it's Samsung's owned by in South Korea, right? They're a Korean company. Should they be able to open a plant?
They open up an American company.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, I think that'd be all right.
So then, but that means it's foreign-owned land, though. It's an American company, as in it's hiring American workers, but it's a foreign company.
Yeah, they should rent the land. They should offer an American owner.
Sign a lease. Here you go.
Okay.
It's the land's.
Phil, before I forget, I want to say Adam. My favorite video of him is on The Price is Right.
So
that's all I want to say.
Goes all the way too, right? He goes for context. He's referencing Adam D. The time that Adam D. from Killswitch Engage was on The Price is Right, and he went and he won the whole caboodle, the whole thing. He got all the way to the end and won, and it was hilarious because if you know anything about Adam D., he's a character.
Dog Steve.
That's
my name.
He's and dude, in real life, he's just like that. Like it's not like he's putting on an act. He's ridiculous all the time.
Is he brilliant? Is that the guy that produced your
Absolutely.
thing?
He's absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
He's your producer?
He's not like he produced 4 records for us. He produced This Darkened Heart, The Fall of Ideals, For We Are Many, and he produced A War You Cannot Win.
Was he doing that thing on Price is Right where he'd be like, bet $1 more than the opponent and then get it?
I don't
It's been a while.
Yeah. I don't remember his bets. I remember his antics, his yelling and stuff. He's hilarious. You can Google, you can search it on YouTube. Adam D.
He gave a shout out to his dog Steve.
Yeah, his dog Steve.
So
Shout out the backbone of
It's a good dog. It's a good dog. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, the idea of I'm not super opposed to foreign entities owning U.S. land. I mean, I understand what people are saying. I don't hate the idea of being like, all right, for a foreign company, you have to lease it from a U.S. landowner or whatever. But to Ian's point, right? Like, if there's a U.S. landowner that owns the land, it's going to be some big conglomerate if they're leasing it to a company. It's not going to be like, Joe down the street owns this land and he's going to lease it to, the Samsung Corporation,
It'd be cool if we could do stuff like that. Like,
well, I mean, if you own property, you absolutely can. There's nothing preventing an American citizen from leasing land to a company that wants to build build some kind of factory or something like that.
This is where I start to align with the communist cry for like seizure of property, is because if corporatocracy, I feel like, is the other end of the spectrum of communism, is where the corporations own everything as opposed to everyone owns everything. So the communists will be like, down with corporate ownership, we must take it back. And I'm like, okay, I understand the corporate ownership's a big problem, but I don't think like just going and seizing property with no future plan is the right way to necessarily go about it. But I can see where the animus is brewing, because
it's always a 5-year plan.
There's always a 5-year plan.
Yeah,
Yes.
we got to start with 5 years.
No, that was actually a comment about communists consistently having 5-year plans. I think that property ownership is important, and I don't think that it's good for like, I'm generally like, generally against eminent domain. Like unless it's a real,
Absolutely.
real serious need, like the government shouldn't be like it should take a lot of steps and a lot of work for the government to take your property over eminent domain. I think that generally it's a bad use of land.
Do you think that the government using eminent domain to seize land around the Capitol to build data centers is righteous?
I don't think the government's doing that.
I know. I don't think they are. I think they're buying it. But if it were to come to it where they're like, we need more power. And the government wouldn't be. So like usually eminent domain, and there's the abuses that are my biggest problem, but usually eminent domain is used for like we're building a highway. So we need to take this because the highway is going through here and we can't have it go, whatever. We can't change the shape of the highway or whatever. As for data centers, I don't think that the government is actually in the business of using eminent domain to acquire land for data centers. Most of the time, it's private companies that are doing that. So I'm asking right now.
Yeah,
like
for now.
Power lines? Do they do it for power lines too?
Probably for power lines. I think they do that kind of stuff. But a lot of times they'll do it for airport. I mean, there are times where they use eminent domain for infrastructure projects and stuff. But honestly, I don't think that
Disneyland or something. And I mean, this
the
actually
Dolly
happened.
Parton.
They were trying to get my friend's farm.
Hollywood.
Yeah.
I think in the long run, to be honest with you, I think in the long run, data centers like Musk is probably going to put data centers in space, and I think there's going to be a lot of companies that are going to follow suit because once he figures out how to do it, and he's very much the only no is physics, right? So if physics says you can't do it, then you can't do it. Otherwise, you can do it. And he's put a lot of effort into getting things into space. There was times where people were like, "You're never going to get rockets into space. You're never going to get reusable rockets. You're never going to be able to put, the internet into the sky." And that is all, proven totally wrong. So I think that in the long run, data centers are going to end up in space and, low Earth orbit.
Yeah, and in your houses and in your phones, I think we'll decentralize the data too, like mesh it up.
Mesh it like a
Mesh networking of data. Yeah, data crunching and
Isn't
stuff
that
like
more of a communication thing than actual like data?
mesh sharing, mesh networks.
Yeah, mesh networks are like just they're kind of like a private internet. Your network.
Yeah, an intranet, you could call it intra, but it's like device to device as opposed to going to a central server and then back to your device. I'd go right to your device instead. So if you could transmit, like if my phone could do calculations for your tank, like partially because it's local or something, because it's nearby, and I could run like 2% of your data needs, that could help alleviate.
Oh. Yeah.
Excite the mathematics.
We're gonna jump to this story here. Todd Blanche's nomination for Attorney General clears critical hurdle after a deal with GOP holdouts. From the AP. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche has cleared a critical hurdle Tuesday in his bid to be confirmed to the post after swaying Republican holdouts on a Senate committee to advance his nomination for a floor vote. The Senate Judiciary Committee voted 12-10 along party lines in support of the nomination of President Donald Trump's former personal attorney, who has aggressively pushed the Republican administration's priorities since taking over for Pam Bondi in April. The vote followed a deal struck late Sunday between Blanche and two Republican senators, John Cornyn of Texas and Tom Tillis of North Carolina, who had been threatening to block his confirmation over the settlement of Trump's lawsuit against the Internal Revenue Service regarding the president's leaked tax returns. Cornyn and Tillis backed Blanche's nomination after the Justice Department confirmed in writing that it wasn't moving forward with a $1.8 billion fund to compensate Trump allies who believed they were prosecuted for political purposes, which the administration announced as part of the settlement. So, I'm not sure how many people Donald Trump has appointed that have been confirmed by the Senate, but I know that it's historically low. Mm-hmm. So this is looking like it could be another actual win for the administration. Todd Blanche has been pretty good so far. I know that there are a lot of people that had a lot of problems with Pam Bondi for different reasons. The Epstein stuff being one of the major reasons, just because it was all handled so like it was a complete clown show. The whole, the walking out of the White House with binders. And I understand that people are going to say, oh, well, that was actually, they weren't supposed to have a photo op and what have you. But even still, like, it should have never happened. No. Like, it was a total, total farce.
It angered a lot of people.
Correctly. There's a lot of people that, Cernovich was smart about it. He wasn't standing there holding up the binder, unlike some other people that are, I guess, friends of the show. But look, the whole Pam Bondi, she was good on some things, but she wasn't particularly good about optics, and optics really, really matter in DC.
Oh, yeah, it's the most important thing. Like we were talking earlier about messaging matters. Mm-hmm. Optics matter in DC. They will make or break you in DC. So I know a lot of people wanted Bondi out. I was one of them. She absolutely was creating a PR nightmare for the presidency and for Trump specifically. It wasn't surprising when she left. I'm hoping Blanche is going to do good work. I'm happy they're working out a deal. But again, I try not to get my hopes up too high with any politician or any government, anything. So hoping this all goes well, but at the same time, got to have your reservations too.
Yeah. So the Senate has confirmed it says hundreds of President Donald Trump's nominees for a second term, including a fresh package of 74 to 107 civilian and lower level administration posts approved in early August to clear a backlog. Thousands of total political positions exist, with hundreds tracked actively. Let's see, do they have any kind of numbers here? Because I know that the administration political appointee tracker, hold on a second. Let's see. Positions have no Trump nominee. Nominees are being considered by the Senate. 100. There's been 360 that have been confirmed. So let's see. Each nominee. 824 positions that are in total here.
I mean, that's probably like lower level, like every position they have to, because they have to.
Yeah.
They have to, like so many appointments, and there's a lot of appointments to fill. So I'm sure that's overtime. There's like an assistant to the assistant to the other assistant.
Under secretary.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's like a million of them, which that in and of itself is a big problem. How many positions are, one, appointed, and two, held? Like, that's how many people do you need in the government? That's
a big bureaucracy.
It's huge, but that is so many people. Like, we need to trim that fat immediately.
Well, I mean, ostensibly that's what Doge was for.
Right.
And that was, really hamstringed by, not just by Congress, but, actively by protesters and by the media.
Yeah.
I think that the most significant thing that Doge got to do was cut USAID. Mm-hmm. And even now you're hearing how people are swearing up and down that Elon Musk is a murderer. I even saw some infographics that talk about like the most murders in history, and they put Musk's name in there because they project that all these people are going to die. So they've got like Mao, Stalin, Elon Musk, Hitler, as if Musk was responsible for these deaths because of Doge. But there's constantly people that talk about, well, the government should get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. And then you go ahead and you get rid of the waste, fraud, and abuse, and people freak out because it's always a catastrophe. The way that they the narrative that they spin, it's always some kind of catastrophic thing if you get rid of this post or that post. But the USAID stuff, we have Mike Benz on a lot, and he says that, there's not really a whole lot of light between USAID and CIA, right? Like USAID is basically a front for CIA.
Well, you see how the DNC is basically broke since USAID got cut. I think that was one of the best things to do, is to cut USAID, but I think a lot of people are getting disenfranchised because we have all this fraud that's happening. And then you have Rand Paul once a year that does the Festivus report, and you're saying, this is ridiculous. But no one ever seems to get held accountable for wasting all of our money. And I'm kind of circling back to the American dream. I think that's another cloud that's on top of the United States right now. I mean, we're arresting Somalians in Minnesota and all of that, but this money trickles back to politicians, and no one is being held accountable for this. That's why people are getting upset.
Yeah, I wonder how much, like what percentage of the total U.S. budget is fraud, right? Like out of all of the money, because Musk was making the argument that he thought it was like $1 trillion, which when I first heard it, I was like, come on, man. Like the U.S. spends like $2 trillion. You think half of the money that's getting spent is $1 trillion. And then you hear about the billions of dollars in one state alone. And you're like, oh, well, maybe that's true. Maybe it actually is, approaching $1 trillion.
Medicaid and Medicare fraud.
Yeah.
That's going around. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security are the biggest drivers, and you got to imagine. Look, when you offer people some kind of social service for legitimate problems that they're having, that there are a lot of people that are like, oh, well, I have a problem too. How many people that you see rolling around on scooters at Walmart are on Social Security because they can't work because they can't get up and walk? Right. And they're what, 40, right? And they're like, oh, my knees are destroyed. Well, you were walking around with an extra 200 pounds on your body, and now you can't work a regular job, so you get on Social Security. It's like, maybe you shouldn't be on Social Security. Maybe we shouldn't have these programs, or maybe we should have more stringent rules about who can and cannot get on the program. Because look, the amount of money that is waste, fraud, and abuse probably does approach what Musk was talking about.
Mm-hmm. And go ahead.
On the books, it's like 3 to 5% of our $7 trillion a year budget.
What's that?
Improper payments, they call it, and then fraud's harder to track. But 3 to 5% of $7 trillion, which would be $350 billion a year, roughly. But that's just what's on the books.
Yeah, and I mean, how much did they say was fraud in Minneapolis?
Oh, tens, if not hundreds of billions. No, wait. Are you talking about the Leering centers?
Well, overall, the whole state, they were estimating.
I don't have that number. No. I can't remember offhand.
Leering.
I love that everyone just says it like it's like, oh, like, you mean the Leering centers? Like, no one ever says the learning centers anymore. I passed one in Martinsburg.
Is that a word? Learning? I thought it was Leering.
Yeah, it's crazy. I passed one in Martinsburg and like just laughed to myself. I was like, well, at least we know it's not Somali because it was spelled Learning Center. So I was like, well, don't gotta report that one.
This is it's a big part of my dissolution with the American dream. I don't want to talk about my dissolution too much, but it's the fraud. Like it feels insurmountable, literally insurmountable. Like the only way to solve it is to break the whole system, which means like sudden death for so many people. That's not where I'm aiming, but I just don't see a lot of other outcomes over there.
It would only mean sudden death if someone's using the system correctly. That's the thing.
And it indicates that if I don't do fraud, I'm going to get left behind and become one of those casualties. Like I have to, if you can't beat them, join them. That's like the mentality that I'm being bred, and I don't want to
like
think
a slow rip of the Band-Aid. Like I got hairy arms.
That's what it feels like. They're like, don't let anyone know that you're peeling the bandage off. It'll be too obvious.
Gotta
Do
rip
it
that thing off.
real slow. And they're like, why does it hurt so bad? They're like, because I'm not telling you what I'm doing to you. I'm like, bro, my infection.
My infection.
My infection. Good song lyrics.
Man, this
my own prison. It's like a Creed thing.
So federal prosecutors estimate that roughly $9 billion in taxpayer money has been compromised or stolen through widespread industrial-scale fraud schemes across 14 states administered social services programs.
900 billion?
9 billion.
9 billion.
Yeah. So, I mean, but that's not a little money, I mean, in the broad scheme of things, when you're talking about, $2 trillion budget, it's not a lot of money, but it's
like
nothing.
Just one layer of it.
Yeah.
It continues to go down.
Mm-hmm.
If you were somebody that had foreign ties, because I'll ask friends, and I don't want to pick on Israel, I'm not doing that, but I'll have like American Jews or Jewish Americans, and they'll be like, "Are you a Jewish American or are you American Jew?" And some people be like, "No, my loyalty lies with Israel, and I'm Jewish first," and they wave Israeli flags. I'm like, "But they're American citizens." I'm like, "Okay, if there are people like that in power, and they really are like, I'm this thing first, then I'm an American citizen," and they could just print up money by tweaking some numbers in a computer and like send money elsewhere and like fuck the American people over, and like they don't really care about America.
There shouldn't be people that are hyphenated Americans in Congress, right?
Absolutely. Part of
what about, like,
being
business-
sworn in, you should have to denounce other.
Yeah, you shouldn't be allowed to be a dual citizen and be in Congress. You shouldn't be saying things like Ilhan Omar, where we're Somalis first, or I'm here to take care of the Somalis.
Absolutely.
If you, and that goes the same for Israelis. Israel has plenty of money. They're a competent nation able to take care of themselves. They don't need, the United States holding their hand. For context, the U.S. baseline for money to Israel is $3.8 billion a year, which that's a lot of money. And I'm the kind of dude that thinks that we should just get rid of foreign aid. But I will say, when it comes to foreign aid, it does contribute to help prop up the dollar. If you're giving money to other countries, they want those dollars to remain valuable, so they will see a value in them. And so, considering how much money we print, it's part of a plan to continue to have a demand for dollars.
Do you believe that oil drives the market worldwide?
Currently, probably, yeah.
Okay. Do you know how much oil we have in the Permian Basin? And do you know where the Permian Basin is?
We have a lot of
like
oil.
About 150 years worth.
Yeah, we have a lot of oil.
Where's that at?
It's West Texas up to New Mexico, Arizona-ish kind of region. But it's fracturing is what they do, and there's a ton.
There's a lot of oil.
Absolute.
We have
of oil.
We have plenty of oil here in the United States. There's I'm actually kind of partial to the argument that oil is too valuable to burn. Right, like I like the idea of going towards electric vehicles and stuff like that, because just burning it seems like you're using one of the most functional. It's civilization juice, right? Like it's not just for your cars, right? Everything that we basically come in contact every day is petroleum based. All the fertilizers that we use, all of the rubber and materials that we use. There's so many medicines that are produced that use petroleum based products. The stuff is, when they say it's liquid gold, it's not just about putting gas in your car. While that's a big use of it, I think it's better for the US to, try to move to other forms of energy for at the very least for vehicles, just because it's so valuable. Burning it seems to me to be a waste. It
is. But plastic, making plastic, that's like the main thing for it is plastics.
Well, not the main thing, but yeah.
I asked Jim Tour, like, can we burn graphene for fuel? Because you can, it's carbon. And he was like, yeah, but you would never want to. It's too valuable. And I think the same thing about oil. Like, if you can heat it up with radiative heat, you can't directly run current through it and turn it into graphene because it's liquid. But if you surround it with like a hot tube, you can convert it into graphene, literally.
Oil?
Yeah. They break the carbon chains apart, and then they reform into structural graphene, which you can use to strengthen roads and strengthen concrete and things like that. That's just one value of this stuff. Sorry to interrupt. I felt like I almost interrupted.
Right. But yeah, so I do think that the U.S. has sufficient oil here. Like there's not a lot of reason for the U.S. to be importing oil. We can definitely provide. Look, the U.S. is a continent-sized country. Everything we need, whether you're talking about oil or whether you're talking about rare earth minerals that we get all from China, that's all here in the U.S. There's basically everything the United States needs to run the United States can be produced here. We even have the most pure silicone on Earth. There's this town in North Carolina that has the silicone mine that is the only place that has 99.999% pure silicone, and that's what you have to use to make chips. But not only that, you have to make the crucibles out of silicone as well, because you can't have any contaminant in it.
Oh, silicone is different.
Silicon.
Told me that.
Sorry.
Like, Phil, it's silicon.
Silicon. Okay, fine.
Silicone?
Silica quartz. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's this town, little town in North Carolina, and that's all they do is just mine this pure silicon. Silicon?
Yeah, silicon.
Silicon Valley, right?
That's like that soft fake boob material.
I apologize for mispronouncing.
Silicon Valley.
So
from now on.
Yeah. Silicon.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we can produce everything that we need here in the U.S. We don't need to actually, export things. It is cheaper because we've had, there's so many countries that had emerging markets and they were basically going from an agrarian society to a modern society. That's part of the reason why everything got shipped to China, is because they were trying to bring the Chinese economy into the 20th century. But yeah, I'm aware of the the amount of oil that we have here. And I do think that, oil is the petrodollar is still the main driver. So go ahead with your thought then.
No, I'm just thinking if like the United States becomes more independent as a nation, it could help us like tremendously. I've also thought about student loans. We were talking about that earlier. Take college out of the equation, boost up our trade schools. Now, hopefully it doesn't drive up the cost, of trade schools themselves, but we're kicking out skilled laborers, right? We need to replenish that. And if we get our kids to, I know some HVAC sales guys that just sell AC units making $500,000 a year.
Yeah.
And they're like 25 years old, young kids.
What do you think? So actually kind of down this, I'm going to tug on this thread a little bit. What do you think about the United States having the Navy we have in order to keep international trade regular? Do you think the U.S. should be regulating the sea lanes and protecting international trade?
Yeah, I do believe so. But I think we've been so like, I don't want to say infiltrated, but like we're talking about, like, are you Jewish American or African American, or, we need to get in the mindset you're American, right? We have so many different countries that are invading us physically and mentally too, as far as elections or just even propaganda pieces that you're hearing all the time on social media. It's like everyone's combating, I'm Muslim or I'm Jewish. And instead of just focusing on being an American, we're putting these other ideals in front of what it actually means to be an American. And I think that's what's kind of getting lost. Does that make sense to you?
I do, and I agree. The idea of hyphenated American, Teddy Roosevelt said, the idea of a hyphenated American is abhorrent to being an American, right? Like, so wherever you came from, right? Wherever you came from to the United States, you should leave that place behind. Leave the old world in the old world. And when you come to the United States, if you become a citizen, you're an American, and that's it. So I do agree, like in principle. I don't think that you don't hear it so much from people that are on the right, though. I mean, sure, I think when you're talking about like Black Americans, African Americans, people on the right that are Black Americans, they'll still kind of call themselves African Americans. But you don't hear people that are on the right that are from other countries generally kind of sliding into that mindset.
It's only American Jews when they're
no, it's definitely not only American
we have
Jews.
them on the show. When they're like,
you have
Israeli
people on
flags on their Instagram and stuff.
But it's not only Jews.
But that's like the one I could say on the right that I can think of off the top of my head.
Oh, you're talking about people on the right. Okay. No, because you hear, like I said, African Americans, Black Americans that have, their family that was here, that are descendants of slaves. They'll still call themselves African Americans.
But not Israeli American, American Jew, like not Jewish Americans. Those are Americans. American Jews, where they're like, yeah, I'm born here, but I am Jewish first. Those people, I don't see that with Africa ever. I don't Congo. I'm Congo.
No, but they call themselves African Americans. They have that same mindset of the hyphenated American thing.
I've heard of Nigerian American before. In Houston, the area where I'm from, there are a lot of Nigerians that actually come in, become nurses. They become American citizens. They're proud of their Nigerian culture, but they're also equally proud to be American. Like they dislike Black culture here in the United States. Yeah. They tell me that because of where they come from. They like the America is the greatest country on the planet, and that's what I try to emphasize to everyone, because I've been to 30 probably countries. I've been to some real shitholes, and I'm like, you go to these places and you come back to the United States after a few years, and the doors of Walmart open up. You're like, oh, it's angelic euphoria. Oh, yeah. It's like, I miss this so much.
Yeah.
So if we can get people in that mindset, then you can do a lot of change in this country.
That was the thing about corporatization, is that I love when I came back to America, I'm like, thank God there's AC. I know there's always going to be a gas station because that's just the way corporations work. I'm going to know I can get coffee because I know there's going to be a Starbucks somewhere around here. That's the way corporatization works. So I'm like thanking God for the corporatization of my reality.
Look, you go to Europe, and there are definitely countries where 8 o'clock everything's closed, 9 o'clock everything's closed, and that's in Europe.
That was Posobiec was just saying that.
What?
Posobiec was saying that about somewhere he just was at.
Yeah, he was somewhere in Europe. Where was and that he doesn't want to say. But that's something that we would deal with. When we're on tour, you go to Europe, and it's like the show gets over, and it's 11 o'clock, everything's closed. You don't notice it. You don't see that like in London, right? You probably don't see that in Manchester. But even in like there's parts of Paris where we would the show would get done, nothing's open. Definitely if you're in places in Germany and then as you get into smaller countries in Europe and stuff like that kind of stuff happens in the Netherlands. There's parts of it where in Amsterdam a lot of things shut down and there's no option. In the United States, you kind of know that after the show you can find somewhere to get something to eat.
Right.
After you get out of the it's 11 o'clock, everyone's gone home and you can find a place to grab something to eat and
running water. You know that the water that comes out of the tap is probably going to be safe to drink. Like that's
in the U.S. Yeah, but I mean most of Europe it's fairly safe, but I've been to South America and been to Mexico, and that is not the
Don't
that's
do
not
that.
in the U.S.
the way that
you
it
can
goes.
open a package of food and eat it without inspecting the food because there's not going to be mold on it. And that's like I think people take that for granted. Very rarely will you find something wrong with packaged food because of the way the corporations and like bureaucracy works. Is like I don't have to inspect
Honestly,
my apple every time.
That's because of the possibility of litigation, right? One of the things that people give the FDA a lot of credit for stuff, and it's not the FDA that's actually keeping food safe. It's the threat of litigation if someone gets sick from eating something.
So I feel like I'm talking out of two sides of my mouth when I talk about this because I love the organization of the bureaucracy of the manufacturer. Like I know that 2 a.m. Waffle House, if I want to drive,
Your American dream.
it kind of has become,
Go to Waffle House at 2 a.m.
Maybe.
I can do anything I want. I'm an American. But like, I appreciate the old world. Like they get up at 4 a.m., they milk the goats, they're asleep by 3 p.m. There are no bars. There's maybe a tavern, but like that sucks. If you really live there, from my perspective, it sucks to eat chicken and white rice every day because that's all they have access to. Like I prefer the corporations flying in 88,000 different types of food for me to select and improve my genome. But like at what cost, man? Like where's the dream? Like I'm not dreaming for a machine to control and observe and like witness my reality at every turn and make sure I'm not deviating. But that seems like what this thing is doing is it's trying to organize and then make everything kind of homogenous.
I mean, if EMP went off in the atmosphere over Kansas, all electronics would be knocked out. Then we can go back to your previous American dream, just chicken and rice.
It's pretty brutal. That's what
I don't know about that. I don't know if that happened. Going back, there'd be.
I think it'd be chaos.
There'd be a
Absolute
lot of.
It would be like the end of the world.
Yeah, The Walking Dead.
Yeah,
for real.
it would be. Yeah, I mean,
it's so reliant on
cities empty out, and people are dying as they leave cities.
Water
It'd be a
pumps
nightmare.
are electric. A lot of water pumps. So
lot
like
of
if the
wa- lot of
electricity
water
goes out,
pumps
the
are
water
out.
goes out. Like if you get a hand pump, you're good to go. That old school.
It depends on what you mean by good to go, but yeah, like I mean, a hand pump does pump water.
I truly feel like I'm drawn in two different directions. One's towards the corporate Borg, and then the other one is towards like independent nationalism or like protectionism. And neither way's perfect, and neither way's horrific. But like
The Borg's pretty bad.
like a Borg that was like, you said the bad word, therefore you lose your money and you're in digital prison. Like I don't want that. I don't want the Borg being like, you're thinking bad thoughts, kill him. Like I don't want that. But that seems like the ultimate goal of the Unistate is like total obedience, or at least close enough to it that you don't deviate unless they allow you. They choose you to be one of the deviators.
The only places that have been like that in modern history have all been like, state-controlled communist countries.
Yeah, and then you can sort of see microcosms within corporations acting like that, where there's like a leadership top-down authority where things move fast and you're punished readily for violating their terms. Like if that got extrapolated into a government, it could be a problem.
Yeah, that's kind of what you got in top-down, authoritarian kind of communist countries, right? Like if you said the wrong thing, I mean, even and it's not even just communist. Like if you criticize Putin too strongly, and you have a big enough voice, they're gonna make sure that you stop.
So the other side of the coin is, get off my lawn. I don't care what the laws are. I don't care what the laws are. you understand that I don't care and my neighbors don't care. Like, get off my lawn. Like that, the reality of like my personal national property, like get out, is cool too. But the problem is airplanes can come bomb your land. Like, what's this hide and defend your little spot?
What do you
Like,
mean? What's the scenario that you're thinking of where airplanes are going to come bomb your land?
Like if a total nationalist society where like, get your flock cameras out of here, get your digital currency crap. We don't even need electricity because we're so self-sustainable. Well, I'll tell you, the German airplanes are still on the Borg. They're still watching you from spy satellites. You can't like run away from it. It will consume you. So like, it's like join them or get destroyed.
I'm still not following the context as to what would get, German planes to drop a bomb on you and your property.
I know I'm picking a random
sovereign
country
nation inside of the United States.
Right, like a sovereign Borg-like entity that was observing the people that chose not to be part of that grid that wanted to maintain their national sovereignty. Then the entity that's being like, all right, it's time to go seize their territory.
Are you imagining
Like the Amish?
The Amish or the Mennonites? Like, how do you organize?
Are you imagining like the United States government doing that? Or are you imagining a foreign country?
I'm just picturing the airplane itself. It doesn't really matter who controls the power at the moment. But
I feel like it does.
This has been done already on the Family Guy. But Petertopia, where his whole like property, he created a sovereign nation, and I think like the military was surrounded
him.
Yeah, Ayn Rand. I mean, that's the Ayn Rand. What's that book by Ayn Rand where they all
Atlas Shrugged.
Atlas Shrugged. They go and they form their own community in the mountains. But like now we have spy satellites, so there's no hiding from the Borg, like the entity, the machine tracking algorithmic function that we're creating as we speak.
I feel like the machine Borg that you're talking about is a bit too abstract to really kind of articulate the idea that you're trying to get across, because if you're just like, well, the abstract big brother kind of thing, are you talking about like a global thing? Are you talking about the United States having that kind of power? Or because you mentioned a lot of times you'll talk about corporations, and then you'll talk about the government, and they mix together and stuff. And I'm having a hard time following I'm having a hard time following your thought process.
Intranational, so like corporations that exist in multiple countries that have autonomous artificial intelligence that then take over the airplanes, like Boeing installs an AI in their airplane fighter jets now. So, and then it goes rogue, and no one has control of these systems of
you're talking about like an AI kind of
or
thing,
humans that become part of this AI that opt in, and then now they're sort of in quasi control or influence over the system while it's influencing them to not say the wrong words. That I'm very concerned about.
So like a future of like Neuralinked people that are connected to a network.
Yeah.
And decide that they're going to come after you,
right? And
with German planes and drop a bomb on your house.
Exactly. And the bombs themselves will be intelligent, and they'll be like, well, we have to do it or the AI itself will take over. Don't you see? This is for your own good. And you'll be like, I guess they're right, because the AI is much worse alone. It's better that there are humans interfering, but then the human goes psycho, and then they're like, is it better that we have our little farm plots and rifles? But it's like, bro, they have bomber jets and lasers and stuff.
Well, I mean, so in the U.S., I still feel like people have a lot of autonomy. I think that people have a lot of autonomy. I think that the government is still limited in certain ways, right? Like, I mean, obviously there have been, a lot of infringements on people's rights, but the government still. There's still ways to push back against the government. The courts still have a decent amount of power, and you can find relief, when you go to court sometimes. I mean, the biggest thing that bothers me is stuff like the Commerce Clause and the necessary and proper clauses, where they can use that kind of for justification for most bad behavior the government does when it comes to telling people what to do. They can kind of find a justification in the Commerce Clause, and that's a problem. But I don't see how I don't see a big mixing of AI with the government. Like the government uses AI definitely, but I don't imagine the government turning power over to AI.
God, I don't know. With their I think, didn't they just say they're allowing autonomous their military to become AI driven?
Well, that's hard. I think that it's more like targeting in specific context. So, like in a specific battlefield, they'll allow the AI to kind of pick targets and decide which ones are the most important and so on down the line.
I don't think there's really a better one or the other is necessarily better. Like being part of a collective where it is ordered and not particularly evil, but like just crushing, dominating, and organized wouldn't necessarily be horrible. I mean, we could all get along in a system like that, although free speech is pretty important, and I don't know if that could exist in a system like that. The other aspect is like more chaotic, where everyone owns their own territory. They don't necessarily speak the same language.
The real question when it comes to people that are plugged into like a Neuralink kind of thing that connects all their brains is not whether or not you have free speech. It's the question of what you're saying. Is it really your creation, or is it the thoughts of a robot or someone else?
And are the things you're saying being heard by the other person as you're saying them, or is it being warped in between and you don't know?
Yeah, their perception could be, are you really hearing the thing that you think you're hearing? Or are you actually hearing what the other person is saying?
Systems could get to a point where they code in the background so fast that I say, "Hello, Steve," but as the data translates through the internet, you hear, "Fuck you, Steve," and you're like, "Bro," and we get into it, and they just. And that's why you need your software code access, so you see if the system is tweaking your data in transit.
This is going to be like
actually a really
Game
good point.
7, where like people hack into Neuralink and they have the elites sipping on their martinis or whatever they drink, and just watching people fight over each other via Neuralink.
No, and actually that I do think is legitimate, because if you're dealing with, like we talk about read-write technology, right? Like it's not only, are you sure what you're hearing is actually what the other person is saying, but, it becomes a question of, is the other person even there, right? Because if they can, Musk is talking about Neuralink will be able to restore vision, and in 18 months, he's saying you'll be able to see in different spectrums, right? Not just in visible light, but you'll be able to see in infrared, and you'll be able to see like through Neuralink. So if that's the case, right? If your vision can be augmented like that, and they have the capability of communicating with your brain on that level, well, who's to say that the person sitting in front of you is even there? Right? Like you sit down, you think that you're talking to someone, but it's actually just Neuralink telling you. I think that's probably more likely than the whole get into the pod thing, right? Like just, can you rely on your senses anymore?
Oh my God, the pod is in your brain. Because like a horse, if you tie it to a post enough times, you can just untie it, and it will just stand there next to the post as if it's permanently trained.
You don't have to tie it tight. You just throw the reins over the post, and it'll just be like, all right, well, I can't.
Like Pavlov's dog.
Yeah.
Exactly.
As a little aside, I had seen infrared light. The human brain is capable of perceiving it. I think we just kind of mute our brains so that we don't constantly see it, so that we can exist in this reality. But I was waking up out of a dream one time, and my phone was like right in front of me. And as I opened my eyes, I saw the infrared it looked like it was going into my phone. And then I felt my brain kind of twist closed as it the light sucked into the phone, disappeared. Really, it was just that the perception was closing off.
All right. We're going to jump to some of our questions from the Discord. It's Friday. So
pull those up and see if we've got any.
Yeah, we'll see if we got some.
A couple.
It is Friday, so there is no after show, and we're going to jump to the Discord questions here. See what we got. Who's here?
Pull up the chat real quick.
Pull up the chat real quick.
Yeah, where's
Starts
the
at-
chat?
If you go to Meatload of
I don't know.
Mayo is
I
kind of
got
where
this.
they
No
start.
worries.
Welcome to the Dick Sword.
What?
What?
Discord.
Not the after show yet, Ian.
I know it should be. Dude,
It's not the after show yet, Ian. No swearing.
After show on Friday, everyone.
Where is that?
Carter bringing it up.
No,
I'm
well,
trying to.
He's trying to.
Olivia, could you peek over here and show
Yeah, I
me where
got
this
you.
chat is?
Yeah, in the meantime, I'll give you a little bit of
Where's the mouse?
You need to write a new song, Ian.
Yeah, I have another one I was just working on last night that was really good.
Okay. We do got some from Surge X.
Surge X.
From Surge X. Where's that?
dude?
Oh, here we go. Surge X. Question for the guest. You're from Houston. I have to go down there for work at times. My question is, have you noticed a huge increase in Muslims, and what is causing that? Why are they picking Houston? Immigration's causing that, but go ahead.
Yes. So I'm good friends with his name is Kenneth Webster. He I actually do a radio show with him twice a week, and he posted a video. There was I guess a Palestinian march in Houston, and we're seeing this a lot in Democrat led cities. I mean, I'm sure you guys have heard about Epic City in the Dallas area.
Yes, I saw a Twitter about that. Or
Right.
a tweet. I was like, what?
So
because I'm from Dallas, and I'm like, a lot's changed in the last 5 years.
Basically, a Muslim ran neighborhood. Almost. I think it got banned, I believe,
Scary.
by the state. But anyways, yeah. So there is an increase in Muslims, but you see it nationwide too. So it's usually around Democrat strongholds.
Yup. They allow it.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion that we should end immigration for about 20 or so years.
Yep.
Like only
Moratorium.
50.
50 years?
Oh, yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
well,
As long as it took to build up the problem.
doesn't what?
Oh, how long?
Oh, how long it took,
build
but
up
yeah.
the problem? Yeah.
Yeah.
Takes
I
5
mean-
times longer to solve it. It's like getting over a relationship.
Never again.
Yeah.
Me, I would think maybe, O1s, maybe like 10,000 people a year on O1 visas that are really special kind of things. But yeah, we don't
Maybe
need
50 years, yeah.
we don't need to have a lot of immigration for all. Let the people that are here assimilate. The people that are here legally, let the government take the time to find them and send them back to where they need to be. Let the people that are here illegally that actually want to use that $3,000 check to get out of here, let them use the app and go back home. We'll pay you.
The easiest way to do this with sanctuary cities is to cut federal funding from them,
Yeah.
or even the cities or the states. Like start strong arming, and
Yep.
that's how you get it to work. But anyways.
All right. So what else? What else do we got? You're acting racist. First of all, I'm not acting. From who's that?
That was from Brian Major Threat.
Ryan Major Threat. Yeah. Well, that's not nice.
You said you're being racist?
No, it's just a meme that
It's
he
a
put
meme
up.
that says
He
you're
said-
acting racist. First of all, I'm not acting.
Yeah. Let's see. Where are the questions? Don't they
You
pop
see
up?
the one from
Let me
Alex?
scroll down here.
No. From
Racist
Alex.
Alex.
80s question for Ian,
Okay,
or
now
comment
here
for
we go.
Ian.
Question for
The 80s called. They want their jacket back. That's not even Ian's
It's
jacket.
copper. It's Tim's jacket.
It's Tim's jacket.
It's
Yeah, I think
threaded
it's-
with copper, I believe.
Kind of a newish type jacket, too.
I have one similar, but mine's in black. I was wearing it on the last tour.
It's fresh.
Wasn't that hot to wear that on?
I wore it for about 2 or 3 songs and got rid of it. But it looked really.
I was going to say.
You
It
look
looked
like
really-
a walking Moscow mule.
Yeah,
All this Russian talk get me
it looked really cool under the lights.
Yeah.
Question for Phil, Ian. Please elaborate how you think the oil extraction refinement should work instead of its current way. I have no idea because I'm not in the oil industry. So
Oh, I didn't.
Ian's not either.
I didn't say we should change. Did I? I didn't mean to intuit that we were supposed to change the extraction methods of oil. I don't know. I don't know enough about it.
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly.
If you want to get oil out of oil spills, you can put iron oxide dust into the oil spill and then use magnets, and the oil will coagulate around the magnets, and you can literally pull oil out of the ocean with magnets. And
Sorry.
maybe you could reuse it. I don't know.
I was thinking about the Dawn commercial. Just get a whole bunch of yellow ducks and just
Yeah.
put the oil.
just dip them in there? They'll
That's how my brain works.
they'll soak up the oil and then
Yeah, we'll work with nature.
wash them off with Dawn.
Great idea.
I'm an environmentalist.
Hell yeah.
Just thinking of the people, Steve.
All right. Question for the panel. Crisis says, we seem to be constantly ratcheting between we're so back and it's so over. How much of this do you think is manufactured to break the will of people to resist globo homo, and how much is it just plain old dumb cowardly people acting in their self-interest? I am generally of the opinion that it's people acting in their self-interest, and it doesn't even have to be the dumb cowardly people. Like, everybody acts in their self-interest. So generally I think that people are pretty emotional. Even like people say, oh, like men aren't emotional. Men are emotional. Men still vote with emotion. It's just the emotions that they kind of rely on are different emotions than the ones that women rely on. But men are just as emotional as women. Men act just as, act because of emotion in the same way that women do. People believe narratives more than they believe the truth. That goes for, both sexes. So I don't think that it's anyone being dumb or cowardly. I think it's self-interest in general.
No, people say that just because it's the thing that people say, oh, we're so back. Like,
Yeah.
it'll be really funny. I actually joke about it with my friends. I'll see like kids riding on bikes like through my street. I'm like, oh man, kids are back on bikes, man. We're so back. Like, obviously, it's just like hyperbolic.
It's like the retard maxing guy.
Right.
We're so back. Kids are retarded again. We're back.
Yeah, it's
Everything's
like-
going to be great. Kids are outside playing. Not a cell phone in sight. We're so back.
back.
Kids are retard maxing.
It's like, okay, but it's like every time, like you see those posts, they're like, absolute fire. These kids are outside playing. You're like, yeah, they're being kids. Like, that's what happens.
It's more about an exclamation of this is good or an exclamation of this is bad than anything else. It's like you're not going to hear like, oh, that sucks. People are going to say, oh, it's so over. It's just
We're cooked.
yeah,
exactly.
We're cooked. So, Bung says, question for the panel: how easy or likely would it be for the USA to fully move over to nuclear energy by the end of this century? By the end of this century, probably pretty easily. I mean, that's 75 years from now.
Man, thorium reactors are super promising. I was just reading about those.
I mean, nuclear power in general, in my opinion, is extremely, extremely promising and should have been the key to basically free energy.
Dude, thorium reactors they've mitigated meltdowns because they'll have like a frozen plug at the bottom of the tank. So if the tank gets too hot, the plug melts and then it drains out and it doesn't overheat. And because it's mixed with like liquid salt, molten salt, a lot of times if there's a rupture in the system, it will expand naturally, so it will cool itself down. It doesn't melt down.
Good stuff.
Thorium is where it's at.
All right. Smash the like button. Share the show with all your friends. Head on over to rumble.com. Become a member because Monday through Thursday we do the Rumble after show. Today is Friday, so we're not doing the after show. Head on over to timcast.com. Become a member there. Join the Discord. Find yourself a girlfriend. Make babies, all that good stuff. I am Phil That Remains on Twix. You can check out my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Phil That Remains. The band is All That Remains. You can check us out on Apple Music, Amazon Music, Pandora, YouTube, Spotify, and Deezer. Where can people find you, Steve the Ammo Man?
At Steve Loves Ammo on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and X.
Okay.
Yeah, guys, you can find me on X, on Instagram, at Olivia Dasovic. You should go to timcast.com/Discord. Join our community. It is so much fun over there. We have a great time. Again, timcast.com/Discord.
At Ian Crossan is where you get me. Have a nice evening, everyone. It's Friday night. Have a blessed evening and thank your loved ones. Without being too talky, kindness is your appreciation of the people and the things around you. So with that, you'll naturally treat them better. Just appreciate those people and do something about it. See you later.
Yeah, I support that sentiment also. Steve, thanks for coming, hanging out. This has been great. I'm Carter Banks. You can follow me at Carter Banks on X and at Carter Banks Official on Instagram. Check out our record label, Trash House Records, on YouTube at Trash House Records. And we'll see y'all Monday.
One quick thing. Lacey the Fledgling asked, question for the panel, is New York worth fighting for? Yes.
Yeah.
It's part of America, and all of America is worth fighting for. So, yes, it's worth fighting for. You had a big, long question. I'm not going to get into the rest of it, but yes, all of America is worth fighting for. Check us out. Check clips out over the weekend, and we will see you all back here on Monday.